Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to this meeting of the Policy Committee, broadcast via the Magic Box internet all around the world and available for repeat viewing afterwards. Do I have any declarations of interest? Wonderful, brilliant. Minutes of the previous meeting, anything on those? No, are we okay to sign those as a correct record then? Great, thank you very much. Item 4, petitions and questions. No petitions, no public questions, but we do have 2 councillor questions this evening. The first of which, and joining us via the Magic Box, is Councillor McElroy, and it is to the lead councillor for housing, Councillor McElroy. Oh, he's gone off to make a cup of tea.
Thanks, Councillor Brock. I don't actually have a copy of the question in front of me at home. Could I ask if Councillor White could read it for me, please?
Are you hidden down a small canyon or something? It's very hard to hear you, but I think you asked if Councillor White can ask on your behalf, so I shall allow him to do so. Councillor White.
That's it for layers that are coming off. You'll be pleased to hear. Right. This is question number 1, Councillor McElroy. Licensing houses in multiple occupation. Houses in multiple occupation, HMOs, are needed, but large concentrations in Redlands Ward and others create challenges. HMO licensing is a way to tackle these challenges and improve the quality of HMOs. Please can the lead councillor update me on the uptake of the latest mandatory HMO licensing scheme, including the current number of licences issued and council targets. Greens think the council needs to go further with a HMO licensing scheme covering all HMOs in the borough. Disappointingly, this scheme has been delayed. Please can the lead councillor update me on the most recent timescales for implementing the HMO licensing scheme, which will cover all HMOs in the borough.
Councillor Emberson.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to Councillor McElroy for his question and to Councillor White for asking it. The council currently has 1,240 licensed HMOs within the borough and is currently processing 151 licence applications, which includes new applications and renewals. Mandatory HMO licences are generally issued for a 5-year period. Our figures show that we are on track to achieve our target of 42% of licensed HMOs operating within the licence scheme inspected for the current financial year, and figures indicate that we are also on track to achieve our target for 23-24. Any application to central government to introduce either a selective or additional HMO licensing scheme will require the local authority to provide evidence to support the need for such a scheme. We are therefore currently undertaking a 10-year intelligence gathering process so as to differentiate between the properties which are privately rented, HMOs, and those that are owner occupied and socially rented. The main aim of this review is to investigate and provide accurate estimates of 1, current levels of private sector, rented sector properties and 10-year change over time. 2, information on the number of HMOs as a subset of the private rented sector. 3, levels of serious hazards that may amount to category 1 hazards. And 4, other housing related stresses, including antisocial behaviour, service demand, population and deprivation linked to the private rented sector. This information will assist the council to make policy decisions, including the possible introduction of property licensing schemes. We will be sure to keep councillors updated once the review has been finalised with any recommendations proposed.
Thank you, Councillor Emberson. Councillor White, did you have a supplementary?
Yes, please, Chair, and thank you to Councillor Emberson for her answer. Through you, Chair, can Councillor Emberson update me or clarify when the council is looking to introduce the scheme according to the timetable that they're working through at the moment, if it all goes ahead? What is it sort of 23, 24, or what year are we working towards?
Councillor Emberson.
It's too hard to say at the moment. I know they've had difficulties with the intelligence gathering. They're hoping that will be returned in the summer. So hopefully come the summer, there'll be an update in terms of what's come out of that and what's proposed. So I wouldn't commit to an actual scheme coming forward because we don't know what that will look like. But the gathering should be with us early summertime. So June sort of time is what I'm told.
Thank you.
It's probably worth adding that one of the recurrent issues we've had recently with anything that requires approval by the Secretary of State is the amount of time it takes for DLUC to look at these things and then come back to us, which has been the case with the Article 4 regulations that we've made quite recently, for example. On to Councillor question 2. This time it's Councillor White, and to the lead Councillor for Environmental Services and Community Safety, Councillor White.
This one's on tackling rat problems. In the last year, the number of rat reports that Green Party councillors have received from residents has gone up. Please can the lead councillor update me on the number of rat reports which have been investigated this municipal year and what action the council is taking to tackle this problem?
Councillor Rowland.
Thank you, Chair, and I'd like to thank Councillor White for his question. This municipal year to date, the Environmental Protection and Nuisance Service, who are the team responsible for enforcing pest control legislation, has received 226 complaints about rats. Whilst I hear your concern, this data does not show an out-of-the-norm increase in complaints made to the team about this issue. It is worth bearing in mind that in any high-density urban center, there are always issues with rat infestations. Rats are a wild animal, and as such, they will always remain present in the environment. Problems occur where an infestation is concentrated in close proximity or inside people's dwellings, which is usually a result of defective drainage or poor waste management. Our mapping of complaints also shows that the spread of rat complaints is fairly even throughout the borough, although, again, there can be concentrations of issues in certain areas due to poor waste management, both of domestic and business waste, or the presence of a water course. The Environmental Protection Team is constantly reviewing any reports to find linkages where they exist to ensure that any issues which can exacerbate rat populations are addressed. For example, the team is currently proactively working on a new project with the council housing team in order to address rat problem areas more holistically, to reduce rat populations in the vicinity of the council housing stock rather than reactively treating individual rat infestations. When a report is received, the team undertakes the following work to tackle rats, taking into account the duty to control rats is on the landowner, and the council has a responsibility as enforcing authority and also as a landowner. All reports from the rats regarding activity, all reports from residents regarding rat activity are responded to with advice on how to control rats, including proofing of properties to ensure that rats cannot enter, properly managing waste, and where necessary, carrying out an effective baiting program. Where there is evidence of a rat infestation is being caused by a factor outside of someone's control, such as waste dumped by a neighbor or poor waste management by a business, then further investigation is undertaken and enforcement action taken where necessary. Where rat populations are present on council-owned land, advice is provided to the appropriate department on how to deal with the situation. Where issues relating to the sewer network are identified, the team liaises with Thames Water to resolve them. If the team receives a number of complaints about rats in the same area, which indicates a significant infestation, then a comprehensive site visit is undertaken to investigate and follow up action taken. As I stated previously, proactive projects are undertaken when a particular area is identified as having significant problems with rats, whereby officers will carry out targeted visits to local businesses and residents to identify rat infestations, poor waste storage, and property and drainage defects, which may allow access for rats. Examples of such projects already underway are along Wokingham Road and in the Baker Street area. Plans are underway right now for work along the Oxford Road to start in the near future. Finally, I will take the opportunity of your question to address the issue of treatment of rat infestations further. Interestingly, this year we have seen a drop-off of requests for the council's contracted, highly economical and competitive professional rat infestation services. The reduction of this take-up is concerning, as when we give advice, we strongly advise engaging a professional service, either by Reading Borough Council or other professionally accredited services. Unfortunately, when residents choose to take the matter into their own hands and use off-the-shelf bait, it is often less effective than that used by pest controllers and may simply be providing a food source for the rats. And I cannot emphasize that enough. I would urge you and the residents to access our rat advice leaflet on our website at, and I've given you the address there, as it contains very helpful information and guidance. Thank you.
Thank Councillor Rowland. Councillor White, did you have a supplementary?
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and thank you to Councillor Rowland for the answer. I'd just like to clarify the bit about this data does not show an out of the norm increase in complaints. When I asked about this in 2019, so pre-pandemic, which I guess is a fairer representation than some of the weird years we've had in between, it was 158 investigations. We're now up to 226. So it seems that it's been a, I don't know, 50%-ish increase from then. So I don't know where the not out of the norm increase comes from, unless we're having that increase every year, and that's normal. Thank you.
Councillor Rowland.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for your question. I would admit that rat statistics can be a little bit confusing, but I went back and did the research too. There were 237 rat reports during that year that you're talking about right there, that I have the statistics for right here.
For clarity, you mean the 18-19 municipal year? Or?
Yes, yes, I'm sorry, for the 18-19 municipal year. And so that in comparison to the numbers that we're looking at now, and that's a pre-pandemic number where the numbers went really down quite a bit. They really have kind of stabilized this year, and we're looking at really pretty much the same amount of reports that we have then. The unfortunate thing, as I said, there were 243 contracted pest control visits that year in 2018-2019, but now only 129 from the council. Now, people could be going out to other professionals, or they could be using over-the-counter, which is why I stressed the urgency and the advice to seek a professional, which is clearly laid out in that leaflet information that I gave you. So it's pretty much on par.
Thank you, Councillor Rowland. Takes us to the end of councillor questions. Item 5, decision books, none referred, none published, in fact. So on to the main agenda, 2 things on this. So items 6, 7 and 8. We would take as a single item at council, so we'll take together this evening as well. I've also allowed an item of urgent business as item 8A, which is a Brighter Futures for Children reserved matter. So good news for everybody in the public gallery, you get more meeting for your money. But without further ado, I'll move over to Mr. Carter to present on items 6, 7 and 8.
Good evening, everyone. The 22-23 budget has been developed over a 10-month period with input from hundreds of people across Reading. I want to put on record my thanks to everyone who has contributed. Report number 6 in the pack sets out the 22-23-24 budget and the 3-year medium-term financial strategy. Report number 7 sets out the capital strategy, and report number 8 sets out the Treasury Management Strategy and Minimum Revenue Provision Policy. We're in yet another challenging period for the local government sector. We've had record numbers of councils issuing Section 114 notices in recent years, some with eye-watering deficits that have led to special dispensation to increase council tax by 10 or even 15%. Long-planned changes to the local government funding system have been deferred yet again, and we have another 1-year local government funding settlement, making it difficult to develop longer-term plans. And of course, we're in a cost of living crisis, with inflation running at levels not seen in decades, and the local government pay claim being significantly higher than councils have budgeted for. In this context, I'm very pleased to say that Reading Borough Council is financially stable, with a reasonable level of reserves and contingencies, and consistently delivering services within budget. The CIPFA Financial Resilience Index shows that we now have the 23rd highest level of reserves amongst unitary authorities, which places us pretty much in the middle. Reserves and contingencies are the things that give councils stability. They give us the ability to ride out shocks to the system without destabilising the whole council while we develop longer-term plans. This year's budget consultation exercise started immediately after Policy Committee in December. We received 378 responses, a substantial increase from the previous year. And headlines from the consultation are that 52.65% of respondents supported a 4.99% council tax increase, and 55.82% of respondents support a 7% increase in housing rents. If additional funding becomes available, the service areas most supported are roads maintenance and adult and children's social care. Now, back in December, I reported to Policy Committee a forecast deficit for 23-24 of £2.4 million. That budget gap has now been removed through a combination of making use of the flexibility announced by central government that allows councils to increase council tax by 2.99% with an additional 2% for adult social care, growth in council tax and business rates, and by a better than expected funding settlement. This has helped to fund the considerable inflationary pressures I mentioned earlier, including a £4.4 million increase for adult social care and a £3.9 million increase for Brighter Futures for children. Back in December, I also estimated a funding gap of 10.5 million in year 2 of the MTFS. This deficit was mainly attributable to the planned business rates reset. The government has now confirmed that this reset will not now happen during the course of this Parliament, pushing it back to at least year 3 of this medium-term financial strategy. The government has also confirmed that social rent increases will be capped at 7% next year, as opposed to the 11% increase allowed under the previous regulations. The HRA 30-year business plan has now been updated with a recommended 7% increase, and I can confirm that minimum reserve thresholds are not breached at any point over the 30 years, but that the headroom is significantly reduced from the business plan presented to members at this point last year. Capital investment across the General Fund and HRA is forecast at £230 million over the next 3 years, including previously announced investments in our highways, leisure centres and schools, as well as the huge new investments in the Hexagon Theatre, the Central Library and the bus service improvements following the recent announcement of successful bids to round 2 of the Levelling Up Fund. Now, in order to avoid delays in the commencement of works, recommendation 2.2 of the budget report sets out a range of recommendations relating to LUF 2, and recommendation 2.3 requests approvals for Rannigat School. I recommend these to Policy Committee for approval. The introduction of the Capital Programme Board is the most significant change in this year's capital strategy. This board, chaired by me with the Deputy Director of Infrastructure, Economy and Capital Projects as Deputy Chair, has been set up to ensure the effective development and delivery of the capital programme. The terms of reference for the board are set out in Appendix C to the capital strategy. Finally, the Treasury Management Strategy sets out the parameters for the Council's planned Treasury activity during 23-24, under which my Treasury team will manage day-to-day activities. As at 31st of December 22, we had external debt of £376 million, which ranks us as the 19th highest debt among unitary authorities, with the actual amount of the debt being almost exactly at the average for unitary councils. Market projections indicate that long-term borrowing costs will continue to rise for the first 2 quarters of this year before starting to reduce again. Consequently, the intention is to use lower cost temporary borrowing in the coming year where required. The framework for taking investment decisions in the coming year is set out in the TMSS and includes the use of credit rating agencies' criteria, which incorporate environmental, social and governance risks alongside more traditional finance metrics, as well as the updated counterparties list. Policy Committee is asked to note the requirement within the latest guidance that quarterly reporting on the Council's Treasury management activities is introduced from 23-24, and that this will be done through reports to Audit and Governance Committee. So Policy Committee is requested to recommend these reports to Council for approval.
Thank you, Director. As is usual, and because we'll have an extensive opportunity to debate all of these items and more next week, I will move the closure motion that the recommended action now be voted upon.
I second, Chair.
Those in favour that the recommended action now be voted upon, please show. Wonderful. Those against? That is carried. So we move to a vote on the recommended action. Those in favour? And any against? That is also carried. Thank you very much. Thank you, Director. Good. Moves us on then to item 8A, the Brighter Futures for Children Limited Reserved Matters. Are you introducing this? Wonderful. Over to Mr. Graham.
I can do, Leader. Thank you. Yes, thank you, Chair, for allowing us to bring this paper on an urgent basis, which is about filling a gap with the retirement of Shona Douglas as the Council's nominated Director to Brighter Futures for Children Limited. In order to allow the board to be quorate and to do the business they need to do, they are required to have a full complement of directors, including a member nominated from the council. And so this paper proposes a replacement director until a permanent director can be sought. This is a sort of holding the fort kind of arrangement.
Thank you. Makes perfect sense to me. Not much to say in addition to it. Any other members wishing to speak? No, then are we okay to approve the recommended action? Yes, we'll take that unanimous then. Thank you very much. That brings us to the end of our public session, and I need to move the motion in item 9 to exclude the press and public. Can we all agree to that? Agreed. Wonderful. Thank you very much. Goodbye to everybody in the public gallery. I'll give you a little bit of time to get yourselves out, and we'll turn off the live stream. Thank you.